The Luna crown was heavier than Seraphina had imagined. Cold silver pressed against her forehead as Elder Sage lifted the ancient circlet, moonlight catching in its 3 crescent moon engravings. 500 pack members knelt in the sacred clearing, heads bowed waiting. The air hummed with power, with recognition, with something that felt like destiny finally clicking into place. Behind her stood 3 alphas, her alphas. Kale's hand rested at the small of her back, steady as stone. Theron's fingers brushed her shoulder, protective and possessive. Orion's presence warmed her right side, silent support, radiating through the mate bond that connected them all in threads of living silver. But it was the woman to her left who made Sarah's throat tighten. Celeste Silvercrest stood in formal Luna Guard position, chin high, eyes forward. Beautiful and fierce in her ceremonial leathers, her best friend, her sister. The woman whose trust Sarah had shattered 3 months ago in the worst possible way. The crown descended. By ancient right, by mate bond, by trial of worth. Elder Sage's voice rang across the clearing. We recognize Seraphina Nightingale Silvercrest as Luna to 3 alphas of 1 blood. The pack roared approval. Wolves howled in the distance. The mate bond flared brilliant silver, visible to every witness, proof of what everyone had fought so hard to deny. Sarah's eyes met Celeste's. Found something there that looked almost like forgiveness. Almost. But first there had been blood. There had been betrayal. There had been one terrible night that changed everything. 3 months ago, Sarah had been nothing. A charity case. A coward hiding in someone else's home. 3 months ago, she had made the choice that would either save her or destroy her. This is how it happened. 5 years earlier, the coffee shop in neutral territory didn't look like the place where Seraphina Nightingale's life would change forever. It was small, tucked between a bookstore and a tailor's shop with checkered floors and mismatched chairs. The kind of place where pack politics didn't matter, where an Omega on the run could sit in the corner booth and pretend she was invisible. Sarah's hands shook around her mug. Black coffee because she couldn't afford cream. The backpack at her feet contained everything she owned in the world, 3 changes of clothes, her mother's photograph, and the suppressants that kept her Omega nature quiet enough to pass for human. She'd been running for 6 weeks. 6 weeks since she'd climbed out her bedroom window the night before her 18th birthday. The night before the arranged mating ceremony that would have bound her to Matthias Thornwood forever. The bell above the door chimed. Sarah didn't look up. Rule number 1 of being rogue: never make eye contact. Never draw attention. Never give anyone a reason to remember your face. Mind if I sit? The voice was warm, female, confident in a way Sarah hadn't felt in years. Sarah glanced up despite herself. The woman standing beside her table was stunning. Mid-20s with honey blonde hair pulled into a high ponytail and eyes the color of amber. She wore expensive jeans and a leather jacket that screamed money, but her smile was genuine. I'm Celeste, the woman said, sliding into the opposite seat without waiting for permission. And you look like someone who could use a friend. That was how it started. Celeste bought her lunch, asked gentle questions that Sarah answered with careful half-truths, never pushed. Just listened with the kind of attention that made Sarah want to cry because it had been so long since anyone had cared enough to really see her. When Celeste finally asked, "Do you have somewhere safe to go?" Sarah's silence was answer enough. "Come with me," Celeste said simply. "My family's pack has sanctuary laws. If you're running from something, we'll protect you." No questions asked. Sarah should have said no, should have kept running, should have known that accepting help would eventually come with a price. But she was so tired. So scared, so desperately alone. "Okay," she whispered. That single word changed everything. 5 years later, 1 week before the Silvercrest pack house blazed with light and laughter. Over 100 pack members filled the Great Hall, celebrating the successful treaty signing with the Northern Ridge Pack. Tables groaned under platters of roasted meat and fresh bread. Wolves in human form danced to drums that echoed the heartbeat of the wild. Sarah stood at the edge of the crowd, a glass of wine she wouldn't drink clasped in her hands. She'd learned her place over 5 years. Present but peripheral, grateful but invisible. The charity case Omega who worked in the pack library and lived in Celeste's guest room and never caused problems. Most days it was enough. Tonight, watching Celeste laugh with her father, Alpha Vincent, watching pack members dance with mates and children, Sarah felt the familiar ache of not quite belonging settle in her chest. "Still playing Wallflower, I see." The voice dripped honey-sweet poison. Sarah turned to find Isolde Ravencroft watching her with calculating green eyes. Celeste's childhood friend, daughter of a powerful highborn pack from the Eastern Territories. Beautiful in the way that made Omegas like Sarah feel small, all porcelain skin and artfully curled auburn hair, and a dress that probably cost more than Sarah made in a year. I prefer observing, Sarah said quietly, trying to sidestep. Isolde moved to block her path. The motion was subtle enough that no one else noticed. Predatory enough that Sarah's Omega instincts screamed retreat. Of course you do, Isolde purred loud enough that nearby conversations paused. It's what you're best at, isn't it? Watching, waiting, living off Silvercrest's generosity like the little charity project you are. Heat flooded Sarah's face. Around them, pack members pretended not to listen while obviously listening. The music seemed to dim. I work for my place here, Sarah managed, hating how her voice shook. I contribute to the pack. You catalog dusty books that nobody reads. Isolde's laugh was sharp, musical, designed to cut. Tell me, Serafina, do you actually think you belong here? Or are you just waiting for the day they realize you're dead weight? The great hall felt too hot, too crowded. 60 pairs of eyes on her now, watching the high-born alpha female put the Omega orphan in her place. That's enough, Isolde. Celeste appeared at Sarah's elbow, her voice carrying alpha authority despite not yet being formally ranked. Her amber eyes flashed warning. I was just making conversation, Isolde said innocently. Surely Serafina can handle a little honesty between pack members. She's not just a pack member, she's my sister. Celeste's arm wrapped around Sarah's shoulders, protective and possessive. And you're a guest. Remember that. For a moment, something ugly flickered across Isolde's perfect face. Then her expression smoothed into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Of course, my apologies. Her gaze slid to Sarah, predatory and sharp. I'm sure you know how lucky you are to have such a devoted friend. Some might even say, suspiciously devoted. I wonder what you'd do to keep that protection. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Celeste tensed. What exactly are you suggesting? Nothing. Isolde's smile widened. Just that Serafina has been living here for 5 years, in a house with 3 unmated alpha brothers, and I can't help but wonder if her gratitude extends beyond proper boundaries. The accusation hit like a slap. Sarah's blood turned to ice. Around them, pack members shifted uncomfortably. This was beyond social cruelty. This was dangerous territory. Questioning an Omega's virtue in front of the pack could damage her standing permanently. You're out of line, Celeste said, voice dropping to a growl that promised violence. Am I? Isolde tilted her head, all false concern. I'm just looking out for you, Celeste. Your brothers are Kyle Theron and Orion Silvercrest, powerful eligible alphas. Don't you think it's strange that none of them have found mates while Serafina has been living under the same roof? Have you ever considered that she might be? Enough. Alpha Vincent's command cracked across the hall like a whip. The drum stopped. Conversation died. He stood from the high table, his presence filling the space with undeniable authority. At 60, he was still formidable, silver-haired and scarred, and every inch the alpha who'd led Silvercrest Pack for 30 years. Isolde Ravencroft, you are a guest in my territory. You will speak respectfully to members of my pack, or you will leave. Are we clear? Isolde dropped her gaze immediately, the perfect picture of submission. Yes, Alpha. My deepest apologies. But when she glanced up at Sarah through her lashes, her smile promised retribution. The celebration resumed. Music started again. Conversations picked up. But the damage was done. Sarah could feel the speculative looks, the whispers, seeds of doubt planted in minds that had accepted her presence without question. Celeste pulled her toward the exit. Don't listen to her. She's always been a jealous. Where are your brothers? Sarah interrupted, suddenly cold despite the crowded hall. Because Isolde was right about one thing. Kale Theron and Orion weren't here. The 3 Silvercrest Alpha brothers, who attended every pack celebration, who stood at their father's side for important events, who should have been present for the treaty celebration, they were gone. Diplomatic mission, Celeste said, reading Sarah's expression. Father sent them to the Western Territories 3 days ago to negotiate trade routes. They'll be back next week. Relief and disappointment warred in Sarah's chest. Relief because she wouldn't have to face them after Isolde's accusations. Disappointment because no, she couldn't think like that. Kale Theron and Orion were Celeste's brothers. They were alphas who treated Sarah with distant politeness. They were so far above her station that even entertaining thoughts about them was dangerous. Even if Kael's rare smiles made warmth bloom in her chest. Even if Theron's teasing made her laugh for the first time in years. Even if Orion's quiet presence in the library felt like coming home. Even if sometimes when she walked past them in the hallways, The air between them crackled with something that felt like lightning about to strike. No, those were fantasies, dangerous fantasies. The kind that could get her expelled or worse. Come on, Celeste said gently. Let's get you home. Home. Sarah followed her best friend, her only friend, out of the great hall and tried not to think about how fragile that word really was. That night alone in her guest room, Sarah checked her suppressants. The small medical bag tucked in her nightstand drawer. The vials of hormonal regulators that kept her omega nature dormant, that prevented heat cycles. That made it possible to live among alphas without triggering biological responses that would complicate everything. She pulled out the latest vial, holding it up to the moonlight streaming through her window, and froze. The glass had a hairline crack running down one side, thin as a spider's web. Recent because she checked these 3 days ago and it had been intact. Her hands started shaking. A cracked vial meant compromised medication, meant the suppressants might not work, meant her heat cycle, which should still be 6 weeks away, could trigger early. She checked the others, all intact. Just this one, the one she'd planned to use starting tomorrow. Sarah told herself it was accident. Someone had bumped her nightstand. The vial had shifted wrong in the bag. These things happened. But Isolde's words echoed in her mind. I wonder what you'd do to keep that protection. No, that was paranoid. Ridiculous. Wasn't it Sarah disposed of the cracked vial and took one from her backup supply? Took her dose, climbed into bed, tried to ignore the voice whispering that something was very, very wrong. The night the emergency PAC council meeting was called 3 days later. Rogue activity on the northern border. Multiple sightings. Possible threat assessment required. All ranked PAC members must attend. Celeste stood in Sarah's doorway, already dressed in her formal leathers. I have to go. Father's requiring attendance from all family members. Sarah looked up from the book she'd been reading. How long? Few hours, probably. You know how council meetings drag. Celeste's expression softened. Will you be okay here alone? I've been alone before, Sarah reminded her gently. I know, but after what Isolde said, I'm fine, Celeste, really. Sarah managed a smile. Go. Do your duty. I'll be here when you get back. Celeste hesitated, then crossed the room and pulled Sarah into a quick hug. You're my sister. No matter what anyone says, you know that, right? Tears burned behind Sarah's eyes. I know. Good. There's leftover stew in the kitchen if you're hungry. My brother should be upstairs. They just got back from the Western Territories a few hours ago. They're exhausted, so they're probably already asleep, but if you need anything... I won't need anything, Sarah interrupted. Go. I'll be fine. Celeste squeezed her hand once more and left. Sarah listened to the front door close, to Celeste's car starting, to the sound of tires on gravel fading into the distance. Then she was alone. The Silvercrest house was massive, a sprawling lodge-style structure that could easily house 20 people. The guest room where Sarah lived occupied the first floor's eastern wing, tucked near the library and overlooking the gardens. Celeste's room was on the second floor. Alpha Vincent maintained private quarters in the west wing, and the 3 Silvercrest brothers lived in the converted attic space on the third floor. Sarah had been in this house for 5 years. She could count on one hand the number of times she'd been on the third floor. The brothers were polite, respectful. They treated her like a valued PAC member. But there was distance there, careful distance. The kind that said they knew exactly how dangerous it would be to let an unmated Omega get too close. Sarah returned to her book, tried to focus on the words, but something felt wrong. It started as warmth, pleasant at first, like sitting too close to a fire on a winter night. She kicked off her blanket, opened a window. The warmth intensified. Sarah's breath caught. No, not now, not tonight. The heat built, fever bright, spreading through her veins like liquid flame. Her skin became hypersensitive. Even her soft cotton nightgown felt like sandpaper. Her vision blurred at the edges. No. Heat wasn't supposed to come for another month. She'd been taking her suppressants religiously. She'd been careful. She'd been the cracked vial. Understanding hit like a punch to the gut. Someone had sabotaged her medication. Someone had ensured this would happen. Panic clawed up her throat. She stumbled toward the bathroom, thinking if she could just get to the emergency suppressants in the medicine cabinet, if she could just take a double dose, maybe she could stop this before the world tilted. Sarah grabbed the doorframe, gasping. The fever spiked. Her Omega biology, dormant for so long, roared to life with devastating force. Need, desperate, aching, all-consuming need. She needed Alpha. The thought made her whimper. No, she couldn't. Celeste was gone. The brothers were upstairs. If they smelled her heat, if they came down here, if anything happened, Celeste would never forgive her. Sarah locked the door with trembling hands, staggered to the bed, curled into herself, trying to breathe through the waves of fever and need. She could handle this. She'd read about heat in her research. It was biology. It would pass in a few hours. She just had to endure. The scent started to build. Every omega in heat produced pheromones. It was unavoidable, a biological signal that called to unmated alphas like a siren song. In a normal pack house, there would be suppressant fields, chemical neutralizers, protocols to protect everyone involved. But the Silvercrest house wasn't designed for an unmated omega going into heat. The ventilation system built to circulate fresh air through the massive structure carried Sarah's scent through every room, up the stairs, through the hallways, to the third floor. Cale Silvercrest woke to the smell of honeysuckle and lightning. He sat up in bed, every nerve suddenly alive. Alert, his alpha instinct snapping to attention like a wolf catching prey, scent on the wind. That scent, sweet and wild, and undeniably omega. Someone in this house was in heat. The realization sent ice through his veins. He was out of bed and in the hallway before conscious thought caught up. Found his brothers already there. Theron looked feral, his gray eyes more wolf than human. Orion's hands were clenched into fists, every muscle rigid with the effort of control. "Tell me you smell that," Theron rasped. "Omega," Cale's voice came out rougher than intended. "In heat, in this house." "That's impossible," Orion said, but he was already moving toward the stairs. "Father would have warned us, would have protocols." Cale grabbed his arm. "Wait, think, who's here right now?" They looked at each other. The Pack Council meeting had taken everyone. Their father, the ranked members, Celeste, everyone except Seraphina, all three said simultaneously. The knowledge hit like a freight train. Sarah, the quiet omega who'd lived in their house for 5 years, who'd kept careful distance, who'd treated them with polite formality, who Kyle had noticed despite every effort not to, who Theron made excuses to talk to, who Orion sought out in the library with transparent regularity. Sarah, whose scent had haunted Kale's dreams for months. Sarah, who was currently in heat on the first floor. Alone. "We need to leave," Kale said, even as every alpha instinct screamed at him to do the opposite. "Now, we'll shift and run to the border outpost. Wait there until Celeste gets back. She can handle this. We can't." A sound drifted up from below, soft, pained, a whimper that spoke of fever and need and desperate solitude. Theron's control cracked first. He was moving before Cale could stop him, taking the stairs 3 at a time. "Theron," Cale snarled, but he was already following, because that sound, that scent, the biological imperative rising in his blood like a tidal wave. He couldn't leave her. None of them could. They found her door locked. The scent was overwhelming here, rich and sweet and wrong, because it carried undertones of distress, of fever too high, of an omega suffering through heat without support. Dangerous. This was dangerous. Orion shouldered forward, knocked gently. "Seraphina, are you all right?" Silence. Then barely audible. "Go away, please. You have to go." Her voice was wrecked, desperate. Cale's fists clenched. "Open the door." "No, Celeste. I need Celeste. Please, just please leave me alone." "Celeste is at the council meeting," Theron said, pressing his palm flat against the door like he could reach through wood. "She won't be back for hours." "Seraphina, your fever, we can smell it from here. You need help." "I'll be fine. I can handle this. I just need you to leave before—" Her words cut off in a gasp. The scent spiked. Through the door they heard something fall. Glass breaking. Cale's control snapped. He shouldered the door open. The lock gave easily, too easily. One hard impact and the wood splintered. The scene inside the guest room would haunt him forever. Seraphina Nightingale, the omega who'd kept herself so carefully controlled for 5 years, lay curled on the floor beside her overturned nightstand. Broken glass glittered around her, water pitcher shattered. Her skin was flushed, fever bright, her nightgown soaked with sweat. She looked up at them with eyes that were more wolf than human, glazed with heat and need. "You can't be here," she whispered. "Celeste will never. She'll hate me. Please, please, just go." But Kyle was already moving. Kneeling beside her, reaching out despite knowing it was the worst possible decision. His fingers brushed her wrist. Lightning. That was the only word for it. The contact sent electricity racing up his arm, through his chest, straight to his heart. The mate bond that had been lurking dormant for months, years, if he was honest, ignited like a match struck in darkness. Silver threads visible for just a heartbeat sparked between them. Kale looked up, found his brothers staring. Knew they'd seen it too. She's ours, Theron breathed. She's our mate. No, Sarah tried to push Kale away, but she had no strength. This is just biology, heat compatibility. It doesn't mean... I've felt this pull for 2 years, Orion said quietly, kneeling on her other side. Long before tonight, I thought I was imagining it. 5 years, Kale admitted, since the first day Celeste brought you home. Sarah looked between them, tears streaming down her flushed cheeks. Then why didn't you ever? Because you were Celeste's friend, Kale said simply. Because you deserve better than alphas who couldn't even approach you properly. Because every time I thought about pursuing you, I saw her face. My sister, trusting me to be honorable. And look how well that worked out. Sarah laughed bitterly, then gasped as another wave hit. Her body arched. The scent intensified. Theron made a sound low in his throat that was pure alpha need. Kale forced himself to think past the instinct roaring through his blood. We can't stay here. If Celeste comes home early, if she finds us like this... The cabin, Orion said. Western territory. It's far enough that no one will scent us. Private enough to... I can't walk, Sarah whispered. I can barely think. How am I supposed to... I'll carry you. Kale scooped her into his arms before she could protest. She weighed almost nothing. Felt perfect against his chest like she'd been designed to fit there. The mate bond pulsed. Silver threads wound tighter. This is wrong, Sarah said, but her arms wrapped around his neck. Celeste will never forgive me. You're her brothers, her family. I'm ruining everything. You're ours, Kale said firmly, and we'll figure out the rest later. Right now, you need help. We're going to give it to you. Even if it destroys my friendship, even if it tears your family apart. Kale looked at his brothers, saw the same desperate certainty reflected in their eyes. Even then, all three said, they ran through the darkened house, out the back door, into the forest that bordered Silvercrest territory. Theron led, Orion followed. Kale carried Sarah against his chest, feeling every shiver, every spike of fever, every whimper she tried to muffle against his shoulder. The western cabin sat deep in Packlands, a private sanctuary the brothers had built when they needed escape from pack politics and expectations. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a fireplace, and basic furniture, and absolute privacy. No one came here without permission. No one would find them. Kale shouldered through the door and carried Sarah straight to the master bedroom. Laid her on the bed with hands that shook despite his best efforts at control. She looked up at him with eyes that were pure silver now, wolf rising to the surface, heat consuming rational thought. I don't know what to do, she whispered. My first heat, I was supposed to have medical supervision. Suppressants. I wasn't supposed to, not like this, not with, we'll take care of you, Orion promised, moving to her other side. Every step. We won't do anything you don't want. But Seraphina, your fever is dangerous. Heat without release can cause lasting damage. Do you understand? She nodded. Tears tracked down her temples. Tell us what you need, Theron said, his voice gone rough with restraint. Sarah's laugh was broken. I need you. All of you. And I hate it. I hate that biology is making me need you when I've spent 5 years trying not to. Kyle kissed her. He couldn't help it. Couldn't watch her torture herself. Couldn't deny what was screaming between them. The moment his lips touched hers, the world exploded into silver light. The mate bond roared to life, not tentative, not careful, but fierce and complete and absolutely undeniable. It wrapped around them like chains, like silk, like coming home to something you didn't know you'd been missing. When he pulled back, Sarah was gasping. Color, Kale demanded. The word was from negotiation training, a way to check consent even when words became difficult. Green meant continue. Yellow meant pause. Red meant stop. Green, Sarah breathed. So green. Please, Kyle, I know. He kissed her again, deeper, slower, feeling her respond, feeling the fever begin to ease slightly, replaced by different heat. We know, and we're going to make this good for you. I promise, boys. What followed was sensation without thought. Theron kissed her throat, found the sensitive spot where neck met shoulder, and made her gasp. Orion's hands mapped her body through the nightgown, learning every place that made her shiver. Kale pulled back just enough to look at his brothers. Saw the same desperation, the same certainty. We take turns, he said. Slow, careful. Her needs first. Always. They nodded. The night blurred into moments. Kale first because he was eldest and control was his burden. He made love to Sarah with careful intensity, watching her face, learning every response. When she shattered beneath him, gasping his name, the mate bond flared so bright it left after images. Then Theron, who approached with playful reverence, who made her laugh even in the midst of desperate need, who proved that passion could be light and deep simultaneously. Finally, Orion, who loved her with quiet focus, who whispered poetry against her skin, who cried when the bonds settled fully into place. Between waves of heat they held her, brought her water, cooled her fever with damp cloths, talked in low voices about everything and nothing. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" Sarah asked at one point, lying tangled between warm bodies. 5 years. You felt this for 5 years and never... You weren't ready, Kale said simply. You were healing, building a life. We weren't going to pressure you. And Celeste, her voice broke on the name. Silence. Because that was the question none of them could answer. How do you tell your sister you've made it her best friend? How do you explain that biology and fate had chosen the one person it would hurt her most to lose? Near dawn, when the heat had finally banked to manageable levels, Sarah fell into exhausted sleep. Kale stood, padded to the cabin's small porch, stared out at the forest painted pink and gold by approaching sunrise. His phone buzzed. Father. Kale's heart stopped. Son, Alpha Vincent's voice was carefully neutral, which was somehow worse than anger. Father, I can explain. Explanations can wait. Right now I need information. The Omega in your cabin. Seraphina Nightingale. She has a mark on her left shoulder, crescent-shaped, like a brand, but older. Have you seen it? Kale frowned. Sarah's shoulder. In the heat of the night, he'd noticed scarring. Hadn't thought to examine it closely. I've seen it. Why, boy, that's not a scar, Kale. That's a seal. His father's voice dropped. Your mate is moonborn. Ancient lunar bloodline. Extremely rare. And if what I suspect is true, if she's bonded to 3 alphas of the same blood, then she's the fulfillment of a prophecy we thought was myth. I don't understand. You will, but son, you need to know something else. Seraphina's birth pack. Thornwood. Apologize. I've been doing research since Celeste mentioned the girl had run from an arranged mating. Thornwood pack has ancient treaties with Silvercrest. Very old, very specific. Dread pooled in Kale's stomach. What kind of treaties? The kind that might give them legal claim to her. If they know what she is, if they find out she's here. A pause. Kale, I need you to tell me the truth. Is the bond real? All 3 of you. Kale looked back through the cabin door, saw Sarah sleeping between his brothers, saw the silver threads of the mate bond connecting them even in sleep. Yes, he said, it's real. Then we protect her. Whatever comes, when Thornwood finds out, and they will, we fight. The call ended. Kale stood on the porch as the sun rose, feeling the weight of what they'd done settle over him like a cloak. They'd claimed their mate. They'd betrayed Celeste's trust. They'd triggered something that involved ancient prophecies and pack politics and threats they didn't yet understand. And in a few hours, they'd have to go home and face the consequences. The Pack Council meeting ended at dawn. Celeste Silvercrest drove home with her mind half on rogue activity reports, half on the conversation she needed to have with Sarah about as old as accusations. Her friend had seemed withdrawn lately, sad, like she was carrying weight she couldn't share. Maybe tonight they could talk, really talk, the way they used to before pack politics and social hierarchies complicated everything. She pulled into the drive, noticed her brother's vehicles still parked in their usual spots. Good. They were home. She'd check on them, make sure the Western Territories negotiations had gone well, then find Sarah. The house was quiet, too quiet. Celeste's instincts prickled. She climbed the stairs, knocked on her brother's doors, empty, descended to the first floor, to the guest wing, to Sarah's room. The door hung open, splintered lock, signs of forced entry. Celeste's heart stopped. Inside the room was in disarray, nightstand overturned, broken glass, the bed disturbed, and a scent, honeysuckle, lightning, heat, omega heat, Sarah's heat, and underneath it 3 distinct alpha signatures, Kale, Theron, Orion. Understanding hit like a physical blow. Celeste stood in the destroyed guest room, breathing in the undeniable evidence of what had happened, and felt something in her chest crack clean through. Her brothers, her best friend, together. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Her phone rang. Kale's number. She answered with shaking hands. Celeste, I need you to listen. Where is she? Silence. Where? Isaiah, Sarah, The Western cabin. With us. Celeste, I can explain. You slept with her. Not a question. A statement. All three of you, while I was at the council meeting, in our house. It wasn't she went into heat. We couldn't. You couldn't what? Celeste's voice rose. You couldn't control yourselves. You couldn't call me. You couldn't do anything except take my best friend to your secret cabin and she's our mate. The words hung in the air like broken glass. What mate bond? All three of us. It's been forming for years, Celeste. We just didn't. We never acknowledged it because we knew it would hurt you. But last night when she went in to heat the bond, I don't care about your bond, Celeste shouted. She's my friend. She's the only person who... Her voice broke. 5 years, Kael. 5 years she's lived in our house. I saved her. I gave her sanctuary. I called her sister. And this is how you repay that. This is how she repays it. Celeste, please, we need to talk about this, all of us. Come to the cabin. Let us explain. Bring her home. What? Bring Sarah home. Right now, I want to see her face when she tells me why she betrayed me. The line went dead. They drove back in silence. Sarah sat in the back seat of Kael's truck, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like all three brothers, and tried not to think about what was coming. Celeste knew her best friend, her sister, the woman who'd saved her when she had nothing, knew that Sarah had slept with her brothers. The guilt was suffocating. She'll understand, Theron said from the passenger seat, but his voice lacked conviction. She won't, Sarah whispered, and she shouldn't. I betrayed her trust in the worst possible way. You were in heat, Orion argued from beside her. You had no control. I had 5 years to tell her how I felt about you. 5 years, to be honest. Instead, I hid it. I lied by omission. I let her think I was just the grateful charity case while inside I was... She couldn't finish. Kael pulled into the drive. Celeste stood on the front porch, still in her formal leathers, arms crossed, face carved from stone. Sarah's heart shattered. She climbed out of the truck on trembling legs. The blanket fell away. She stood there in a borrowed shirt that hung to her knees, barefoot and disheveled and reeking of alpha and heat and guilt. Celeste? Don't, one word, delivered like a knife. Sarah flinched. Celeste descended the porch steps, stopped 5 feet away. Her amber eyes, usually so warm, were glacial. You slept with all three of my brothers. Not a question, an accusation. Sarah's throat closed. She nodded. While I was at a PAC meeting, while I was doing my duty, while I trusted you to be safe in my home. I didn't mean it just happened. The heat, it came out of nowhere and... Did you want them? The question was surgical. Sarah's mouth opened, closed. Before last night, Celeste continued, voice deadly calm before the heat. Did you want my brothers? Lee's rose to Sarah's lips. Denials, explanations. But she'd hidden too much already. Yes, she whispered. The word dropped between them like a stone. How long? 5 years. Sarah's voice broke. Since the beginning, I tried not to. I tried to bury it. I knew it would hurt you. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop feeling... Get out, Sarah recoiled. What, get out? Celeste's hands clenched into fists. Out of my house, out of my sight. I can't even look at you right now. Celeste, please. You were my sister. The words came out as a scream, raw, anguished. The only person I trusted completely. And you've been lying to me for 5 years, wanting my brothers while pretending to be my friend. How am I supposed to... Her voice shattered. Sarah took a step forward. I never pretended. Your friendship was real, is real. Celeste, you're the most important person in my life. If that were true, you would have told me. You would have been honest. You would have chosen me over them. Tears streamed down Celeste's face, but her voice remained steady. Hard, but you didn't. You chose keeping secrets. You chose sneaking around. You chose betrayal. The mate bond. I don't care about the bond. Celeste's alpha power flared, making the air pressure spike. I don't care that fate or biology or whatever decided you belonged together. You had a choice, Sarah. Every day for 5 years, you had a choice, and you chose to lie to me. The accusation hit like a physical blow, because it was true. Sarah had chosen. Every time she didn't mention her feelings, every time she accepted Celeste's hospitality while hiding her attraction to Celeste's brothers, every time she'd told herself that omission wasn't the same as lying, she'd chosen this. I'm sorry, Sarah whispered. I'm so sorry. Tell me how to fix this. Tell me what to do. There's nothing to fix. Celeste's voice went flat, empty. We don't have a friendship anymore. We're done. Celeste, Kale started. You three can do whatever you want with your mate. Celeste cut him off without looking at her brothers. You're adults. It's your choice, but I won't watch it. I won't pretend everything's fine. Not now, maybe not ever. She turned and walked back into the house. The door closed with terrible finality. Sarah stood in the driveway, staring at the closed door, feeling like her chest had been torn open. Behind her, she heard a car approaching. She turned. A black SUV pulled up to the house. Tinted windows. Unfamiliar vehicle. Not Pack. The door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, dark-haired, cold blue eyes, mid-30s, radiating alpha dominance that made Sarah's knees go weak. She knew that face. Had nightmares about that face. Hello, Aurora. Sarah went rigid. Aurora, her real name, the name she'd left behind 5 years ago. My name is Serafina, she said, voice shaking. The man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Your name is Aurora Serafina Nightingale, daughter of Sebastian and Lyra Nightingale, bloodborn of Thornwood Pack, and you belong to me. Matthias Thornwood stood in Silvercrest territory like he owned it. Behind Sarah, all three brothers shifted into defensive positions. Matthias's smile widened. I see you've been busy, little Omega. Made it already. How unfortunate, because I have something you should see. He pulled out a document, unfolded it with theatrical precision. Sarah's blood turned to ice. She recognized the paper, the seal, the signature. Ancient treaty between Thornwood and Silvercrest Packs. Matthias read. Dated 1873. Article 7, Section 3. Any Omega of Thornwood bloodline residing under Silvercrest protection shall be returned to Thornwood Pack if claimed by designated Alpha. Claims are considered valid when accompanied by blood oath documentation. He pulled out a second document. Blood oath signed by Sebastian and Lyra Nightingale 18 months before your birth, promising their firstborn Omega to Matthias Thornwood in arranged mating. Sarah's world tilted. That's impossible, she whispered. My parents, they wouldn't. They did, to secure protection for their failing bloodline, to guarantee pack standing, to save themselves. Matthias's eyes glittered with dark satisfaction. You ran 5 years ago, but you can't run from blood oaths, Aurora. You can't hide from pack law. He looked past her to Kale, to Theron, to Orion. I'm formally claiming Aurora Serafina Nightingale under treaty rights. Pack Council hearing will be held tomorrow at dawn. Bring your alpha. Bring your evidence. But know this. He stepped closer to Sarah, so close she could smell old leather and smoke and something chemical that made her Omega nature recoil. You will be coming home with me, one way or another. Then he was gone, back in the SUV, driving away like he hadn't just shattered what remained of Sarah's life. Sarah stood frozen, processing. Treaty, blood oath, Pack Council hearing. Matthias could legally claim her, could force her back to Thornwood. He's bluffing, Kale said, but uncertainty edged his voice. There's no way a treaty that old is enforceable. Sarah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered automatically. Serafina Nightingale. The voice was elderly, female, formal. This is Elder Sage of the Silvercrest Council. You are required to appear before the full council tomorrow at dawn. Failure to attend will result in automatic enforcement of Thornwood treaty claims. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. The line went dead. Sarah looked at the three brothers who'd become her mates in one catastrophic night. Then at the closed door where her former best friend refused to emerge. Then at the forest where somewhere a man who claimed ownership of her soul was waiting. What have we done? She whispered. None of them had an answer. Tomorrow the Pack Council would decide her fate. Tonight she moved her few belongings from the guest room to the western cabin, from Celeste's house to the brothers' sanctuary, from the life she'd built to something new and terrifying, and possibly doomed before it even began. As the sun set over Silvercrest territory, Sarah stood at the cabin window and watched the forest darken. Somewhere out there, Matthias Thornwood was planning. Inside this house, Celeste Silvercrest was crying. And here in this cabin with three alphas who'd chosen her despite the contest, Sarah felt the weight of prophecy and treaty and broken trust settle over her shoulders like chains. The mate bond hummed, silver threads connecting her to Kale, Theron, Orion. Real, undeniable, complete. But was it enough? Was any bond strong enough to survive what was coming? Sarah touched the mark on her shoulder, the seal she'd never understood, the prophecy she'd never known existed. Tomorrow would bring answers. Tonight brought only questions. and the terrible certainty that the hardest battles were still ahead. The Silvercrest Great Hall had never felt so cold. Sarah stood before the assembled council as pale morning light filtered through high windows, illuminating the judgment waiting in every face. 200 pack members filled the chamber. Witnesses, observers, people who would decide whether she deserved protection or should be handed over like property to a man who saw her as breeding stock. The council table sat elevated on a dais. 7 elders, each ancient enough to remember when treaties were written in blood instead of ink. Alpha Vincent occupied the center seat, his expression carefully neutral. Beside him, Elder Sage, a woman whose silver hair fell to her waist and whose eyes held centuries of pack memory. Matthias Thornwood stood to Sarah's left, confident, smug, dressed in expensive black that made his pale skin seem corpse-like. He'd brought his own witnesses, 3 Thornwood pack members who radiated disapproval. To Sarah's right stood Kael Theron and Orion, her mates. The mate bond hummed between them, silver threads invisible to most but tangible as touch. Their presence steadied her, reminded her she wasn't alone. But Celeste was absent. Sarah had looked for her in the crowd, searched every face, found nothing. Her former best friend had chosen not to attend. The absence cut deeper than any blade. This council is convened. Alpha Vincent announced, his voice carrying authority that made even Matthias straighten. We are here to determine the validity of treaty claims made by Thornwood Pack regarding Seraphina Nightingale currently residing under Silvercrest protection. He gestured to Matthias. Present your evidence. Matthias stepped forward with theatrical precision, unrolled the ancient treaty document across the council table. The parchment was yellowed with age, the ink faded but legible. Sarah could see the seals. Thornwood, Silvercrest, binding. Article 7, Section 3. Matthias read, his voice carrying false civility. Any Omega of Thornwood bloodline residing under Silvercrest protection shall be returned to Thornwood Pack if claimed by designated Alpha. Claims are considered valid when accompanied by blood oath documentation and proof of bloodline. He produced the second document, newer, 24 years old. Marcellita. Blood oath signed by Sebastian and Lyra Nightingale, promising their firstborn Omega daughter to me in arranged mating. Signed, witnessed, and sealed according to pack law. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Elder Sage leaned forward. The treaty is authentic. I remember its signing, but it was written in a different era, before modern pack laws, before Omega rights legislation. Pack law supersedes modern legislation, Matthias countered smoothly, especially when blood oaths are involved. Aurora's parents made a vow. They accepted protection in exchange for their daughter's future. That debt remains unpaid. My name is Seraphina, Sarah said quietly. Every eye turned to her. She lifted her chin, met Matthias's cold gaze. I rejected the name Aurora when I left Thornwood. I rejected the future my parents tried to choose for me. I am not property to be traded. You are Omega, Matthias said, as if that explained everything. You are blood-born Thornwood, and you are mine by right. I belong to no one. The words rang through the hall. Matthias's smile turned predatory. Don't you then explain the mating marks on your neck? Fresh, multiple. You've already been claimed, just by the wrong alphas. Heat flooded Sarah's face. She touched her throat instinctively. The 3 crescent moon marks were visible above her collar. Evidence of the mate bond. Proof of what happened that night. Kael moved to her side. His presence was solid heat. The mate bond is sacred, recognized by all pack law. It supersedes arranged matings. You have no claim. The bond is incomplete, Matthias countered. No formal ceremony, no pack recognition, just 3 alphas who couldn't control themselves around an Omega in heat. His gaze slid to Alpha Vincent. Hardly the behavior expected from your sons. Vincent's expression remained stone. The circumstances are irrelevant. If a true mate bond exists, treaty claims are void. Then prove it. Matthias gestured to Sarah. Prove the bond is real and not just heat-induced chemistry. Prove she deserves protection over honoring ancient treaties. Prove she's worth the political conflict you're inviting. Silence fell. Elder Sage stood. Her movements were slow but deliberate. She approached Sarah with eyes that seemed to see through flesh to soul beneath. May I? She asked, gesturing to Sarah's shoulder. Sarah nodded. The elder's fingers found the mark. The seal. The crescent-shaped brand that Sarah had carried since infancy without understanding its meaning. Sage's breath caught. Remove your shirt. What? Sarah's voice came out strangled. The left shoulder. I need to see the full mark. Sarah looked at Kyle. He nodded, gave silent permission and protection simultaneously. With shaking hands, Sarah pulled her collar down, exposed the seal completely. The hall erupted in whispers. The mark glowed, faint, silver, pulsing with light that matched the mate bond's rhythm. Intricate patterns spiraled from the central crescent, ancient symbols that predated modern pack writing. Moonborn, Elder Sage breathed. She carries the lunar seal. The whispers became roars. Impossible, someone shouted. Moonborn bloodlines are extinct. No Omega has manifested in 3 generations. Alpha Vincent raised his hand. Silence crashed down. Explain, he commanded the elder. Sage's fingers traced the glowing symbols with reverence. Moonborn are ancient bloodline. Omega capable of forming mate bonds with multiple alphas of the same blood. When bonded, they create pack shields. Unbreakable unity. The last confirmed Moonborn was recorded 150 years ago. She turned to address the full council. There is a prophecy. When Moonborn bonds with 3 of same blood pack becomes unconquerable. The bond makes mates stronger, faster, connected through silver threads that cannot be severed. Folklore, Matthias spat, but Sarah heard the hunger in his voice. Superstition. Is it? Sage gestured to Sarah and the 3 brothers. The mate bond is visible. I can see the silver threads connecting them. Can't you? She was right, as Sarah watched the air between her and her mates shimmered. Silver threads, delicate as spider silk, strong as steel, wound between their hearts, pulsing with shared heartbeat. Real, undeniable. Proof of connection that transcended biology. Matthias's expression darkened. Then she's even more valuable than I thought. Thornwood pack is dying, low birth rates, weak bloodlines. A Moonborn Omega could save us, strengthen us. The blood oath still stands. Her parents promised her to me. That promise included whatever bloodline she carried. Her parents lied, Sage said flatly. They knew what she was. That's why they sealed her power. To hide her from people like you. She turned to Sarah. When were you sealed? I don't know. I've had this mark since I can remember. My parents said it was a birthmark. Sealing happens in infancy, before the first shift, before power manifests. Sage's eyes held ancient sadness. They were trying to protect you, but seals break, especially when mate bonds form, especially when... She stopped, looked at the 3 brothers. Understanding dawned. The heat, she said quietly. It triggered early because the seal was weakening. Your mate's presence in the house, their combined alpha energy, it accelerated the process. Sarah's world tilted. You're saying the heat wasn't natural? Nothing about Moonborn is natural, child. You are rarity incarnate. And now that you've bonded, now that the seal is cracking, your power will emerge, whether you're ready or not. Power, Sarah whispered. Strength, speed, healing abilities. Command presence that makes even alphas hesitate. And most importantly, the ability to amplify your mate's capabilities. Together, the 4 of you could be unstoppable, Matthias finished. His eyes glittered with avarice, which is exactly why she should return to Thornwood. Imagine what we could accomplish with such power. Imagine what you would do to her, Kale snarled. Use her, breed her, break her, never. You don't have a choice, Matthias addressed the council. The treaty is binding. Blood oaths are sacred. Modern sentiment doesn't erase ancient law. Aurora belongs to Thornwood. To me. Then let her prove otherwise, Alpha Vincent said. The hall fell silent. Vincent stood. His presence commanded absolute attention. Seraphina Nightingale, the council is divided. Some wish to honor the treaty. Others recognize the mate bond's validity. I propose a compromise. Dread pooled in Sarah's stomach. What kind of compromise? Traditional Luna trials. 3 tests over 3 days. Wisdom, strength, heart. If you pass, the council will vote to void the treaty. You will be recognized as Silvercrest Luna. The mate bond will be formally acknowledged. And if she fails, Matthias asked, then she returns to Thornwood. The blood oath will be honored. No, 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 no. Sarah looked at her mates and saw horror and helpless rage. This is insane, Theron said. You're gambling with her life. I'm offering her a choice, Vincent interrupted. Something she's never had before. Fight for her freedom, prove her worth, or surrender to fate. His eyes found Sarah's. What do you choose? What choice did she have? Stay silent and be handed to Matthias like livestock, or fight and risk losing everything? Sarah straightened her spine. I'll take the trials. The decision sealed her fate. Trial 1 Wisdom. The first trial took place in the council chamber that afternoon. Two pack families stood before the assembled elders, radiating mutual hostility. The Thorns and the Ashwoods. Neighbors, former friends, now locked in bitter dispute over hunting territory in the eastern woods. Elder Sage addressed Sarah formally. Trial of Wisdom tests your ability to lead, to make decisions that serve the pack, to find solutions where others see only conflict. She gestured to the families. These wolves have been fighting for 3 months. Violence has been threatened. Pack unity suffers. Resolve this. Sarah studied the two families. Marcus Thorne, mid-40s, scarred and proud. His wife beside him, protective of their 3 teenage sons. Elena Ashwood, elderly, but fierce, supported by her adult children and grandchildren. Both families bristled with righteous anger. Tell me the dispute, Sarah said quietly. Marcus spoke first. The Eastern Territory has been Thorn hunting ground for 60 years. My father hunted there. His father before him. It's tradition. It's ours by right. The land belongs to the pack, Elena countered, not individual families. My grandchildren need training grounds. The eastern woods are perfect for teaching young hunters. The Thorns are hoarding resources. We're protecting tradition. You're being selfish. Enough. Sarah's voice carried unexpected authority. Both families stopped, looked at her. She'd spent 5 years in the pack library, 5 years reading histories, studying maps, memorizing details that most considered useless trivia. Now that knowledge crystallized into purpose. When was the Eastern Territory officially designated Thorn hunting ground? Marcus blinked. 1963, after the Great Pack restructuring. And before that, who hunted there? Silence. I don't know, Marcus admitted. That was before my grandfather said I'm. Sarah turned to Elder Sage. May I access the historical maps, the ones stored in the archive vault? Sage's eyes gleamed. You may. 20 minutes later, Sarah returned with rolled parchment yellowed with age. She spread it across the council table. The map showed Silvercrest territory as it existed in 1890. The Eastern Woods, Sarah said pointing, were originally shared territory. 6 families rotated hunting rights seasonally. Spring and fall to Thorns, summer to Ashwoods. Winter open to all families for survival hunting. She pulled out a second document. This treaty, written in 1892, confirmed the rotation. It was never officially revoked, just forgotten. When the 1963 restructuring happened, someone recorded the Thorns as sole holders because they were hunting there at the time. But the original agreement stood. Marcus stared at the documents. I never knew. How could you, Sarah said gently. It was 3 generations ago, but the law still exists, and it solves your problem. She addressed both families. Return to the rotation system. Thorns get spring and fall prime hunting seasons. Ashwoods get summer perfect for training young hunters in warm weather. Winter remains open territory. Everyone benefits. Tradition is honored. Young wolves are taught. The pack stays united. Silence. Then Elena laughed, short, sharp, surprised. By the moon. That's brilliant. Marcus looked at his family, saw his sons nodding, turned back to Sarah. We accept. If the Ashwoods agree. Agreed, Elena said immediately. The families bowed to Sarah, to each other. Tension that had poisoned pack relations for months dissolved in moments. Elder Sage smiled. Trial 1 passed. You have proven wisdom. Sarah's knees almost buckled with relief. Matthias watched from the corner. His expression was unreadable. But when his eyes met hers, she saw the calculation, the assessment. He'd underestimated her. He wouldn't make that mistake again. How are you? Between trials, night fell over Silvercrest territory. Sarah worked at the Pack Healers Clinic, helping Orion organize herb stores and prepare medicines. The work was soothing, methodical. It kept her hands busy and her mind occupied. Almost occupied enough to forget tomorrow's trial. You did well today, Orion said quietly, grinding dried lavender with practiced efficiency. The council was impressed. The council is terrified, Sarah corrected. They found out I'm moonborn. They don't know what that means. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. The mate bond pulsed warmth, reassurance, love. Sarah touched the marks on her neck. 3 crescents, 3 mates, 3 alphas who'd risked everything for her. Celeste still won't see me, she whispered. Orion's hand stilled. Give her time. How much time? How long before she forgives me if she ever... The clinic door opened. Isolde Ravencroft swept in like a storm in designer clothes. Her auburn hair was perfectly styled. her green eyes cold as winter ice. Well, well, she purred, the little charity Omega playing healer. How domestic. Sarah straightened. Isolde, what do you want? To offer congratulations. You passed the first trial. Very impressive. The words dripped venom. Though I have to wonder, how did you know about those old maps, almost like you'd been planning this? Researching, preparing. I read, Sarah said flatly. It's what librarians do. Is it? Isolde circled closer. Predatory. Or were you always plotting your rise, playing the helpless Omega while secretly positioning yourself to steal the one thing I wanted? Orion stepped between them. That's enough. Leave. But Isolde ignored him. Her focus stayed locked on Sarah. I've wanted Kael Silvercrest since I was 16 years old. Did you know that Celeste and I used to talk about it? Our future. Me mating her brother, becoming sisters officially, building lives together. Her voice turned sharp. Then you showed up. Pathetic, broken, playing victim, and Celeste took you in like a wounded bird, gave you everything. And how did you repay her? By stealing her brothers? All three of them. I didn't steal anyone, Sarah said quietly. The mate bond chose us. The mate bond, Isolde laughed. Do you know how convenient that is? How perfectly it justifies everything. You destroy Celeste's family, but oh, it's okay, fate decided. She leaned closer. I know what you are, Seraphina. You're a user, a manipulator. You saw three powerful alphas and you decided to have them. The heat was just an excuse. That's not true. Isn't it? Tell me honestly, did you ever feel guilty when you were lying in Celeste's guest room fantasizing about her brothers? Did you ever once think about how it would hurt her, or did you just not care? The accusation hit like a physical blow. Because there was truth in it. Ugly truth. Sarah had fantasized, had wanted, had buried those feelings, but never truly let them go. I cared, Sarah whispered. I still care. She's everything to me. Then you should have chosen her. Isolde's smile turned poisonous. But you didn't. You chose yourself, your desires, your happiness, and now you get to live with the consequences. She turned to leave, paused at the door. Oh, and Seraphina, about your suppressants. That cracked vial. Her smile widened. You're welcome. Ice flooded Sarah's veins. What? Matthias paid me quite well to ensure you went into heat at the right time, in the right place, with the right alphas nearby. Isolde examined her manicured nails. He needed the mate bond to form, needed you to betray Celeste, needed the pack to see you as homewrecker instead of victim. Makes it so much easier to claim you when everyone thinks you're morally compromised. Orion lunged. Isolde danced back laughing. Careful, healer. Wouldn't want to hurt a guest, would you? Especially one who's been documenting everything for Thornwood Pack. You've been working with Matthias, Sarah breathed, from the beginning. Since he contacted me 3 weeks ago, promised me Kael if I helped him get you. Seemed fair. You get 3 alphas. I get the one I actually want. Her expression turned vicious, and Celeste gets to learn that trust is a liability. She slipped out the door before Orion could stop her. Sarah stood frozen. Processing. Sabotage. Manipulation. Matthias had orchestrated everything. The crack suppressant, the heat, the timing that ensured maximum damage. She'd played right into his hands. We need to tell Father, Orion said, already reaching for his phone. But Sarah's mind was racing ahead. It won't matter. Isolde's testimony won't be believed. She's an outsider. We have no proof, and even if we did, it doesn't change what happened. The mate bond is real. The betrayal is real. Celeste's pain is real. You're not a homewrecker, aren't I? Sarah's voice broke. I spent 5 years wanting your brothers. Maybe not consciously. Maybe I buried it deep. But it was always there. Matthias didn't create those feelings. He just triggered them, forced them into the open at the worst possible moment. Seraphina. The clinic door opened again. Kael entered. His presence filled the small space. Alpha power barely contained. When he saw Sarah's expression, his eyes darkened. What happened? Orion explained quickly. Isolde's confession, Matthias's manipulation, the systematic destruction of everything Sarah had built. Kael's fists clenched. We expose her, drag her before the council. And say what? Sarah interrupted. That she sabotaged my medication. She'll deny it. That she's working with Matthias. He'll claim she's lying. We have no evidence, no witnesses, nothing but accusations. Then we make her confess. No, Sarah's voice carried unexpected steel. We don't become them. We don't use force or intimidation. We prove I'm worth protecting by being better than them. KL studied her. Something shifted in his expression. Pride. Recognition. Tomorrow's trial, he said quietly. Strength. Matthias will sabotage it. We know that now. Let him try, Sarah said. I'll pass anyway. The confidence surprised her, but the mate bond thrummed with certainty. With power slowly building beneath her skin, the seal was cracking, and with it, something ancient was waking. Trial 2 Strength. The obstacle course sprawled across the northern training grounds, a mile-long circuit through forest and rocky terrain, designed to test shifted wolves' speed, agility, and endurance. Natural hazards, fallen logs, steep ravines, river crossings, challenges that separated strong wolves from weak. 200 pack members lined the course, watching, judging, waiting to see if the moonborn Omega could prove herself physically. Matthias stood at the starting line, smiling, too confident. Sarah approached in running clothes, her hair braided back. The seal on her shoulder throbbed with building heat. The mate bond hummed warnings through her blood. Something was wrong. The trial is simple, Elder Sage announced. Shift, run the course, finish within 1 hour. Your time will be recorded. Your form will be evaluated. Strength alone is insufficient. You must demonstrate grace, control, and pack-worthy capability. Sarah nodded. One more thing, Sage added. The course contains silver markers, small amounts used to discourage rogues. Your Omega physiology will be sensitive to it, but a true Luna must endure discomfort for the pack's safety. Silver. The word sent ice through Sarah's veins. She'd never shifted before, never felt her wolf form. The seal had kept that aspect of herself locked away since infancy. Now she had to shift and run through a course laced with substance toxic to wolves. Matthias's smile widened. He knew she'd never shifted, knew the silver would hurt her. This wasn't a trial, this was attempted murder dressed as tradition. Kale appeared at her side. You don't have to do this. We can challenge the trial parameters. No, Sarah's voice was steady. I do it. I prove myself. She stepped to the starting line, closed her eyes, reached for the wolf she'd never known. The shift hit like lightning. Pain exploded through every nerve. Bones cracking, reforming, muscles tearing and rebuilding, fur erupting from skin in waves of silver white. Sarah screamed. The sound became a howl halfway through. When the agony finally subsided, she stood on 4 legs. The world looked different, smelled different, sharper, more vivid, every scent distinct and overwhelming. She looked down at herself. White fur, not blonde or cream, pure white like fresh snow under moonlight, larger than a normal wolf, nearly alpha-sized though she was Omega. Gasps rippled through the watching pack. By the moon, someone whispered. She's beautiful. Sarah took a tentative step, then another. Her wolf body felt strange but right, like coming home to a part of herself she'd been missing. The starting horn sounded. She ran. The forest blurred past. Trees became green streaks. The earth felt alive beneath her paws. Wind carried 1,000 scents pine earth prey pack. For one perfect moment, Sarah forgot about trials and councils and betrayal. She was just wolf, free, wild, complete. Then she hit the first silver marker. Pain, searing, immediate. The metal dust had been scattered across a fallen log she needed to jump. Her paws touched it, and burning agony shot up her legs. Sarah yelped, stumbled, barely made the jump. The bond flared with her mate's alarm. They felt her pain. She kept running. More silver, hidden in the undergrowth. Dusted on rocks, dissolved in stream crossings. Every obstacle was a trap. Someone had added extra silver, far more than needed for rogue deterrent. Enough to poison, to kill. Sarah's vision blurred. Her legs shook. The fever from silver exposure was building. Dangerous. She could stop, could shift back, could forfeit, but that would mean returning to Thornwood, to Matthias, to a life of being used and broken. No, she pushed harder. The seal on her shoulder visible even in wolf form as silvery scarring in her fur began to glow. Faint at first, then brighter. Heat built, not from silver poisoning, from something deeper, older. Power, moonborn power waking in response to threat. The silver still hurt, still burned, but Sarah felt strength flooding her limbs. Speed she shouldn't possess, endurance beyond normal Omega limits. She ran faster, jumped higher, crossed obstacles that should have been impossible. The finish line appeared ahead. Matthias stood there, His expression shifted from smug satisfaction to shock as Sarah burst from the tree line. She crossed the finish line in 43 minutes, 17 minutes under the time limit, then collapsed. Sarah woke in the healer's clinic. Orion hovered over her, his face drawn with worry. He'd shifted her back to human form, wrapped her in blankets. His hands glowed faint blue healer magic, working to purge silver toxicity from her system. "Don't move," he said gently. "You're still recovering." "Did I pass?" Sarah's voice came out raspy, with flying colors. "The council is investigating the course. Someone added 3 times the normal silver amount. It should have killed you. But it didn't." "No." Orion's hand touched her shoulder, the seal. "Because this is protecting you. The Moonborn seal acts as buffer against toxins. It's saving your life while simultaneously breaking apart." Kale and Theron entered. Their expressions were thunderous. "Isolde confessed," Kale said without preamble. "Father's enforcers found her trying to leave territory. She admitted Matthias paid her to sabotage the course, to add enough silver to ensure you die or be permanently damaged." "Where is she now?" "Dungeon, awaiting judgment." Theron's hands clenched. "She's facing banishment. Maybe worse. Alpha doesn't tolerate pack members who endanger others. And Matthias denies everything, claims Isolde acted alone, says he had no knowledge of sabotage." Kale's eyes blazed with barely contained fury. "But we know the truth." Sarah tried to sit up. Orion gently pushed her back down. "There's more," he said quietly. "During the investigation, border scouts reported movement. Thornwood pack forces gathering at our northern boundary. Not a full army, but enough warriors to make a statement. Matthias is preparing to take you by force," Kale said, "if the final trial doesn't go his way." Sarah's blood ran cold. "When soon, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow after the 3rd trial." Theron moved to the window. "Father is mobilizing pack defenses. But if Matthias attacks during a sacred trial period, it violates every pack law. The Council of Alphas would get involved. Could trigger multi-pack war." "He doesn't care," Sarah whispered. "He wants the Moonborn bloodline. Nothing else matters." "Then we protect you," Kale said fiercely, "whatever it takes." The clinic door opened. Everyone tensed. But the woman who entered wasn't a threat. Celeste Silvercrest stood in the doorway. She looked thinner, older. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her amber gaze found Sarah and held. Silence stretched. The brothers started to leave to give them privacy. "Stay," Celeste said. Her voice was hoarse. "You're part of this too." She crossed to Sarah's bedside, looked down at the woman who'd been her best friend, her sister, before everything shattered. "I heard about the trial," Celeste said quietly, "about the sabotage, about you nearly dying because Matthias wants to own you." "Celeste, I've been angry, so angry I couldn't see straight. I felt betrayed, used, like our entire friendship was a lie." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "It wasn't. I know." Celeste's voice broke. "I talked to Father, to Elder Sage. I learned about Moonborn bloodlines, about mate bonds that choose regardless of consequence, about how you've been fighting feelings for my brothers for years because you thought it would hurt me." She sat on the edge of the bed. "I've been selfish. I made your life about my feelings. I didn't consider that maybe you were suffering too, wanting people you couldn't have, hiding pieces of yourself to keep me comfortable." "You saved my life," Sarah whispered. "You gave me a home when I had nothing. How could I repay that by wanting your family? By being human?" Celeste's hand found Sarah's, squeezed. "By having feelings you couldn't control. By being more than just my grateful charity project." A sob escaped Sarah's throat. "I'm not ready to forgive," Celeste continued. "I'm still hurt, still angry, still working through the betrayal. But Serafina," her voice turned fierce, "I don't want you to die. I don't want Matthias to take you. I don't want to lose my friend completely." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'll be your advocate for the 3rd trial. I'll stand beside you, not because I've forgiven everything, but because you're my sister, and sisters fight for each other, even when it's hard." The words broke something open in Sarah's chest. She pulled Celeste into a desperate hug, felt her friend stiffen, then slowly, carefully hug back. "Thank you," Sarah whispered. "Thank you." When they pulled apart, both women's faces were wet with tears. "Don't make me regret this," Celeste said, but her voice held the ghost of warmth. "I won't, I promise." Celeste stood, nodded to her brothers. "Take care of her. She's going to need all of you for what's coming." Then she left, The silence she left behind felt different. Not reconciliation, not forgiveness, but the first fragile step toward healing. Sin. Trial 3 Heart, the third trial convened at dusk the next day. The sacred clearing, 500 pack members in attendance, every ranked wolf, every family. This was the trial that would decide everything. Sarah stood before the council in formal white, the traditional color for Omega-seeking Luna status. The seal on her shoulder glowed visible through the thin fabric. The mate bond connected her to Kael Theron and Orion in blazing silver threads that everyone could see now. Matthias stood opposite. His Thornwood delegation had grown. 20 warriors now, a show of force, a threat. Alpha Vincent rose. Trial of heart test sacrifice. What will you give up for this pack? What piece of yourself will you offer to prove loyalty, to prove you deserve protection over honoring ancient treaties? This was it, the final test. Sarah had spent the night thinking, planning, trying to find an answer that would save everyone. She stepped forward. I offer myself as bridge between Silvercrest and Thornwood, she said clearly. If Matthias withdraws his claim, if he agrees to void the treaty peacefully, I will visit Thornwood Pack as diplomatic ambassador. I will help them, teach them what I know, build alliance instead of enmity, unite our packs through cooperation rather than ownership. It was a good offer, generous, political. Matthias laughed. The sound was cruel, mocking. You think I want diplomacy, he said. You think I care about alliances. I want you, Aurora, your body, your bloodline, your power. I don't want visits. I want possession. He stepped forward, eyes glittering with madness, barely contained. You're moonborn. Your children will be powerful. Will save my dying pack. Will make Thornwood strong again. I don't need your willing cooperation. I just need your compliance. You'll never have it, Sarah said quietly. Won't I? Matthias smiled. Council, I formally reject all diplomatic offers. I claim Aurora Seraphina Nightingale under treaty rights. Immediately. She comes with me tonight, or what? Alpha Vincent demanded. Or we take her. The Thornwood delegation moved. 20 warriors shifted, not fully but enough. Enough to show teeth, to show readiness for violence. Matthias pulled out a weapon, small, silver, a pistol loaded with silver bullets. Gasps echoed through the clearing. Weapons at sacred trials are forbidden, Elder Sage said, voice shaking with outrage. I'm done with your trials. Matthias aimed the gun at Sarah. She's coming with me. Now, or I shoot her. Wound her enough that she can't resist. Take her back to Thornwood. Heal her there, under my control. Kael snarled, started forward. Matthias swung the gun toward him. Move and I shoot her. Try anything and I shoot her. You've left me no choice. She's mine by right. And I'm claiming what's mine. You're violating every pack law, Vincent roared. This is sacred ground. I don't care. Matthias's composure cracked completely. My pack is dying. I need her. The Moonborn bloodline is the only thing that can save us, and I'm not leaving without her. He gestured to his warriors. Take her. They moved. Sarah's world slowed. The Thornwood warriors closed in. The Silvercrest pack erupted into chaos. Wolves shifting, snarling, preparing to defend their territory. But Matthias kept the gun trained on Sarah. One squeeze of the trigger, and she'd be down. Poisoned with silver. Helpless. Kael Theron and Orion surrounded her. Protective, but unable to attack without endangering her. Stand down, Matthias commanded them, or she dies. Everything was falling apart. Then Isolde's voice cut through the chaos. He has an army at the border. Everyone froze. Isolde stood at the clearing's edge, flanked by pack enforcers. Her face was bruised. Clearly she'd been interrogated, but her voice rang clear. Matthias has 50 mercenaries waiting 3 miles north. If you don't give him Aurora, he's signaling them to attack. He's been planning this for weeks. He'll burn Silvercrest territory to take her. Kill anyone who resists. Matthias's face contorted with fury. You treacherous... I'm not dying for you, Isolde spat. You promised me, Kael. You promised I'd be Luna, but you were lying. You just wanted the Moonborn. Well, now everyone knows you're not here for treaties or honor. You're here to kidnap and breed an Omega against her will. The pack's mood shifted. Rage replacing shock. Alpha Vincent's voice dropped to a growl. Matthias Thornwood, you have violated sacred ground, brought weapons to a trial, threatened violence against pack members. And now we learn you've been planning invasion. The treaty is void. Leave. Now, before I have you executed for your crimes. I'm not leaving without her, Matthias screamed. He fired. The silver bullet streaked towards Sarah. Time crystallized. Sarah saw it coming, saw death approaching at impossible speed, saw her mates lunging too far to reach her, saw Celeste's face horror-struck, saw her future ending before it began. Then the seal shattered, not cracked, not weakened, completely destroyed. Power exploded from Sarah's shoulder in a wave of silver light that knocked everyone back. The bullet vaporized mid-flight. The gun melted in Matthias's hand, making him scream and drop it. Sarah's body changed. Her eyes blazed pure silver. Her skin glowed with lunar radiance. The mate bond connecting her to Theron and Orion became visible as thick silver ropes pulsing with shared heartbeat. Moonborn power fully awakened. Sarah shifted without conscious thought. The white wolf that emerged was massive, twice the size of a normal Omega. Fur that shimmered like captured starlight. Eyes that burned with ancient authority. She wasn't just wolf. She was something more, something primal, something that made even alphas step back in instinctive deference. Matthias's warriors took one look at her and fled, but Matthias himself stood frozen, staring, seeing the power he'd craved and realizing it would never be his. You wanted the Moonborn, Sarah's voice came out layered, human and wolf speaking simultaneously. Inhuman and terrible. Here I am. She stalked toward him. Every movement predatory grace. Matthias raised his hands. Wait, Aurora, we can talk about this. My name is Seraphina. She lunged. Not to kill, to dominate, to show him exactly how powerless he was. One swipe of her paw sent him sprawling. Another pinned him to the ground. Her jaws closed around his throat, not breaking skin, but holding. Proving she could end him with one bite. Through the mate bonds, she felt her mates. Theron, Orion. Their strength flowed into her. Her strength flowed to them, amplifying, magnifying, creating something unbreakable. Together, they were unstoppable. Sarah released Matthias, shifted back to human form, stood over him in her torn white dress, eyes still blazing silver. You will leave Silvercrest territory, she said, voice calm, absolute. You will void all treaty claims. You will never speak my name again. And if you ever threaten my pack, my mates, or my family, I will find you. And I will end you. Do you understand? Matthias whimpered, nodded. Say it. I understand. The treaty is void. I'm leaving. I won't come back. Good. Sarah stepped back, let him scramble to his feet, watched him run like the coward he was. The Thornwood delegation fled with him, disappearing into the forest, leaving only Silvercrest pack behind. 500 wolves stared at Sarah in shocked silence. Then as one they knelt, even Alpha Vincent, even the elders, recognizing the Moonborn, the Luna, the queen who'd been hiding in plain sight for 5 years. Sarah stood in the sacred clearing bathed in moonlight, connected to her mates by silver threads, and finally understood. This was who she'd always been. Not victim, not charity case, not broken Omega. Moonborn, powerful, unbreakable, and she was done running. Silence held the sacred clearing like a held breath. 500 wolves knelt before Seraphina. Nightingale, no Seraphina Silvercrest now, and she stood bathed in moonlight that seemed to respond to her presence. The silver glow emanating from her skin was fading but not gone. Her eyes still held traces of that otherworldly radiance. The mate bond threads connecting her to Theron and Orion pulsed visible in the night air like living silver veins. The Moonborn seal was gone from her shoulder, not hidden, destroyed. In its place, 3 crescent moons had appeared, each one representing a mate, a bond, a choice that had remade her completely. Alpha Vincent was the first to rise. He approached slowly, reverently, as one might approach something holy and dangerous. Seraphina Silvercrest, he said, and his voice carried across the clearing. You have passed all 3 trials, wisdom, strength, heart. You have defended this pack from external threat. You have proven yourself worthy 10 times over. He dropped to one knee before her. Will you accept the Luna crown? Will you stand as shield and sword for Silvercrest pack? Sarah looked at the assembled wolves, at the faces that had watched her for 5 years, some kind, some suspicious, all now marked with awe. She found Celeste in the crowd. Her former best friend's face was wet with tears, but she was smiling. Actually smiling. I will, Sarah said. The pack erupted. Howls split the night. Wolves shifted and sang to the moon. The sound was primal, joyous, a celebration that shook the trees and sent birds scattering from their roosts. Theron and Orion surrounded her. Their hands found hers. Their presence grounded her as the power still crackling beneath her skin slowly settled. You were magnificent, Kale whispered against her temple. You saved us. Theron added, his voice thick with emotion. Orion said nothing, just pulled her close and held her like she might disappear if he let go. Elder Sage approached, carrying a silver circlet on a velvet cushion. The Luna crown, ancient, beautiful. 3 crescent moons worked into the metal that would sit over Sarah's brow. 2 weeks, Sage said, 2 weeks to prepare. Then we hold the formal coronation, with witnesses from allied pacts, with ceremony befitting a moonborn Luna. Her old eyes gleamed, the first in 150 years. Sarah touched the crown, felt power humming through the metal, responding to her, recognizing her. What about Matthias, she asked. He ran, but he won't give up. Not really. Let me worry about Matthias Thornwood, Alpha Vincent said. His expression had gone cold, predatory. He violated sacred ground, brought weapons to a trial, attempted kidnapping. The Council of Alphas will hear of this. He'll be stripped of his territory, banished, maybe executed. His pack will be absorbed by neighbors or left to collapse. Either way, he's finished. And Isolde Vincent's jaw tightened. She confessed fully. Named Matthias as conspirator, provided evidence of the sabotage, the payments, the planned invasion. He paused. She's facing banishment, permanent exile. She'll be stripped of pack status and sent into neutral territory with nothing but the clothes on her back. No pack will take her, Orion said quietly. Not after what she did. She'll be rogue, alone, for the rest of her life. The thought should have brought satisfaction. Instead, Sarah felt only tired sadness. She wanted to belong, Sarah said. Wanted Kyle, wanted status. She just went about it in the worst possible way. She tried to kill you, Theron growled. She doesn't deserve mercy. Maybe not, Sarah met Alpha Vincent's gaze, but I'd like to speak to her. Before the banishment, just once. Vincent studied her, then nodded slowly. You're Luna. That's your right. Judgment. The dungeons beneath the pack house were cold stone and iron bars. Isolde Ravencroft sat in the smallest cell, still wearing her expensive clothes, now rumpled and stained. Her auburn hair hung limp. Her green eyes, once so calculating, were dull with defeat. She looked up when Sarah approached. Guards flanked the corridor, but they stepped back to give privacy. Come to gloat, Isolde asked. Her voice was hoarse, broken. No, Sarah stood before the bars. I came to understand why you had everything. Beauty, wealth, status. Why risk it all to hurt me? Isolde laughed. The sound was hollow. Everything I had, nothing that mattered. She stood approaching the bars. My father is a weak alpha. My mother died when I was young. I was raised to be ornamental, pretty, useful only for making alliances through mating. Her hands gripped the iron. Celeste was my only real friend. She didn't care that I was just a political pawn. She saw me. And when we'd visit here, when I'd see her, brothers, strong, honorable, powerful, I thought if I could just mate one of them, I'd finally matter. I'd finally be more than decoration. So you sabotaged my suppressants. Matthias contacted me 3 weeks before the pack celebration. Said he'd been tracking you for years, knew you were moonborn, knew you'd be his salvation if he could just get you back. Isolde's voice dropped. He offered me everything I wanted. Kale, a place as Luna. Real power. All I had to do was make sure you went into heat at the right time, in the right place, and you believed him. I wanted to believe him. Tears tracked down Isolde's face. I was so tired of being nothing. Of watching other women find mates while I was passed over. Of being Celeste's friend, but never good enough to be her family. Her voice broke. I'm sorry, I know it doesn't matter. I know you'll never forgive me, but I am sorry. Sarah studied the woman who tried to destroy her, saw the desperation, the loneliness, the toxic need for validation that had twisted into something cruel. I do forgive you, Sarah said quietly. Isolde's eyes widened. What? I forgive you, not because what you did was okay. It wasn't. You nearly killed me. You betrayed your best friend. You aligned with a monster. Sarah's hand touched the bars. But I understand wanting to belong so badly you make terrible choices. I've been there. You were a victim. I was broken, and instead of healing I hid. I lied by omission. I hurt the person who saved me because I was too afraid to be honest about my feelings. Sarah's throat tightened. We're not so different, Isolde. We both wanted love and chose the wrong ways to find it. You found yours. I did, and maybe someday in exile you'll find yours too. Someone who sees past the desperation to the woman underneath. Someone who makes you feel like you matter without needing to destroy others. Isolde crumpled, sank to her knees sobbing. Sarah turned to the guards. Give her supplies for exile, warm clothes, money, a chance to survive out there. She met their surprised expressions. That's Luna's decree. She left before Isolde could respond. In the corridor, Celeste waited. She must have followed Sarah down here. Her expression was unreadable. You didn't have to do that, Celeste said. I know. She tried to kill you. I know that too. Celeste studied her. Then something in her face softened. You're going to be an incredible Luna. You know that. Sarah's eyes burned. Am I sorry? Yeah, Celeste stepped on closer. Because you lead with forgiveness instead of vengeance. You see the broken pieces in people and try to understand them. That's rare, powerful. I learned it from you, Sarah said. You saw a broken Omega in a coffee shop and chose kindness. You taught me what real strength looks like. Celeste's composure cracked. She pulled Sarah into a fierce hug. I'm still mad at you, she whispered. But I'm also proud. And I love you. And I'm sorry I wasn't there for the trials. I was scared and hurt, and I let that make me selfish. You were there when it mattered, Sarah reminded her. You volunteered to be my advocate. You stood by me even when it hurt. Of course I did. Celeste pulled back, wiping her eyes. You're my sister. That doesn't change just because you're also mating my brothers. It's weird and complicated, and I'm still processing. But it doesn't change. Sisters. The words settled into Sarah's chest like coming home. 2 weeks, Celeste said. We have 2 weeks to prepare for your coronation, and I'm going to make sure it's perfect, because my best friend deserves the world. Coronation. The day arrived with cloudless skies and perfect weather. The sacred clearing had been transformed. 500 chairs arranged in careful rows. An elevated platform where the council would sit. Banners from 20 allied packs fluttering in the breeze. Flowers, white roses, and silver-leaf sage decorated every surface. Sarah stood in a preparation tent staring at her reflection. The dress was breathtaking, white silk that flowed like water. Silver embroidery tracing patterns up the bodice and down the flowing skirt. Sleeves that left her shoulders bare, showing the 3 crescent moon marks that had replaced the seal. Her hair had been braided with silver ribbons and white flowers. She looked like something from a fairy tale. You ready? Celeste asked, appearing in the tent entrance. She wore formal leathers in silver-crest colors, deep green and silver. Her hair was pulled back in an elaborate braid. She looked fierce. Beautiful. Every inch the Alpha's daughter. I don't know, Sarah admitted. What if I mess up the ceremony? What if I say the wrong thing? What if... You won't. Celeste crossed to her, took her hands. You've faced down Matthias, survived silver poisoning, awakened moonborn power. A ceremony is nothing. It feels like everything. It is everything. You're becoming Luna. Officially. Finally. Celeste's eyes gleamed. And I'll be right there, front row, watching my sister become queen. She squeezed Sarah's hands once more and left to take her seat. Sarah took a deep breath, smoothed her dress, stepped out of the tent. The clearing fell silent. Every eye turned to her as she walked down the center aisle. 500 wolves, 20 visiting alphas, dignitaries from packs across the region, all watching. But Sarah only saw 3 faces. Kael stood at the platform's base, dressed in formal black with silver accents. His dark hair was perfectly styled. His expression was awe and love and fierce pride. Beside him, Theron wore matching formal wear. His gray eyes tracked her every step. His smile was brilliant, unrestrained, and Orion quiet. Orion stood with tears already streaming down his face, not bothering to hide them, just letting the emotions show. Her mates, her choices, her future. Sarah reached the platform. Kael offered his hand. She took it, let him guide her up the steps to where Elder Sage and Alpha Vincent waited. The council stood behind them. Every ranked member of Silvercrest Pack, witnesses to history. We gather under the full moon, Elder Sage began, her voice carrying across the clearing, to recognize Seraphina Nightingale Silvercrest as Luna, as shield and sword of this pack, as mate to 3 alphas of 1 blood, as moonborn, a gift we thought lost to time. She lifted the Luna crown from its cushion. The silver circlet caught moonlight and seemed to glow. Seraphina, do you accept the duties of Luna? Will you protect this pack with all your strength? Will you guide them with wisdom? Will you stand as their voice when they cannot speak for themselves? I will, Sarah said, her voice steady, clear. Do you accept the mate bond with Kael Theron and Orion Silvercrest? Will you honor them as they honor you? Will you stand beside them as equals? I will. Then by the authority of pack law of ancient right of the moon herself, I crown you, Luna. The circlet descended, settled onto Sarah's brow. The moment it touched her skin, power flared. The mate bond blazed brilliant silver, visible to everyone. The three crescent marks on her shoulder glowed. Her eyes flashed that otherworldly radiance. The pack felt it, a surge of energy, of connection, of bond forming not just between Sarah and her mates, but between Luna and pack. Unbreakable, eternal, sacred. Rise, Luna Seraphina, Sage commanded. Sarah stood, turned to face the assembled wolves, and as 500 pack members knelt, the visiting alphas knelt. Even Alpha Vincent, stepping down from his position to recognize the new Luna, knelt. Only Kael Theron and Orion remained standing, because mates didn't kneel to each other. They stood together. I accept this crown, Sarah said, her voice carrying across the clearing with moonborn power. Not to rule over you, but to serve. Not to command, but to protect. You gave me sanctuary when I had nothing. You accepted me despite my secrets. You defended me when enemies came, and I will spend my life honoring that gift. She took a breath, let her gaze sweep across every face. I am Seraphina Silvercrest. I am Moonborn. I am Luna, and this pack is my family, my home, my heart. Anyone who threatens you threatens me, and they will learn, her eyes flashed silver, that I protect what's mine. The clearing erupted, howls, cheers. Wolves shifting and singing. The celebration shook the earth. Kael stepped forward first, knelt before her not in submission, but in reverence. My Luna, my mate, my queen. He kissed her hand, the mate bond pulsed. Theron followed. His kiss was fierce, possessive. You're magnificent. Orion's kiss was gentle, tender. I knew from the first day, you were always meant to be queen. Then the ceremony dissolved into celebration. Music, dancing, feasting. Pack members approached to offer congratulations. Visiting alphas swore friendship and alliance. Children ran through the crowd, their laughter bright and pure. Sarah moved through it all, feeling the weight of the crown, the responsibility, the power, but also the joy, the belonging, the certainty that she'd found her place. As the celebration continued into the night, Sarah found herself standing with Celeste near the edge of the clearing. You did it, Celeste said softly. You became everything you were meant to be. We did it, Sarah corrected. I couldn't have done this without you, without your forgiveness, your support. Celeste smiled. I have something to tell you. I met someone at the Allied Pack meetings last week. Sarah's eyes widened. A mate. Maybe, it's early, but Celeste's smile turned shy. His name is Caspian, Alpha of Nightshade Pack, and when our eyes met, she touched her chest. I felt something that might be the beginning of a bond. Oh, Celeste, Sarah pulled her into a hug. I'm so happy for you. It's your fault, you know. Celeste laughed. Watching you fight for your mates, seeing you choose love despite everything, it made me realize I was ready to stop being angry and start living. They held each other as the pack celebrated around them. Sisters, finally, completely. Epilogue, New Bar's beginnings. 1 week later, Sarah sat in the healer's clinic with Orion. She'd been feeling off for days, tired, nauseous in the mornings, sensitive to scents. She'd attributed it to stress, to the coronation, to adjusting to Luna duties. But Orion, ever observant, had insisted she let him examine her. Now he stood before her, his healer's magic having revealed what Sarah's body had been trying to tell her. You're pregnant, Orion said softly. The words hung in the air. Sarah's hand flew to her stomach. What? About 2 weeks along, it happened right after... He paused, smiled. Right after the mating, the night at the cabin. Tears flooded Sarah's eyes. I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. Babies, actually. Orion's smile widened. I'm detecting 3 heartbeats, triplets, one from each of us most likely. The moonborn bloodline carries enhanced fertility. Sarah couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the impossible joy flooding her chest. 3 babies, 3 lives growing inside her. A family they'd created together. How do we tell them, she whispered. Together, Orion said. We tell them together. That evening, Sarah gathered her 3 mates in their shared quarters. They could sense something was different. The mate bond hummed with her emotions. Nervous, excited, terrified. What's wrong? Kael asked immediately. Are you sick? Did something happen? I'm pregnant. Silence. Three alphas froze, stared, processed. Pregnant, Theron repeated slowly. As in, as in we're having babies. Three of them, triplets. Sarah's hand touched her stomach. One from each of you. Kale sat down heavily. His face cycled through shock, joy, disbelief, and back to joy. Theron whooped, actually whooped, picked Sarah up and spun her in circles until she laughed and begged him to stop. Orion cried, again, happy tears streaming down his face as he held Sarah close. We're having pups, Kale said, wonder in his voice. We're going to be fathers. You're going to be amazing fathers, Sarah corrected. All three of you. That night they celebrated quietly. Just the four of them, talking about the future, about names and nurseries and how they'd manage triplets, about the family they were building together. And for the first time since that catastrophic night 3 months ago, Sarah felt complete peace. 6 months later, Celeste's wedding took place on a perfect autumn day. The ceremony was held at the border between Silvercrest and Nightshade territories. Two packs uniting through love, two families becoming one. Sarah stood as maid of honor, her pregnant belly impossible to hide at 7 months. She wore flowing blue silk that accommodated the swell, felt her babies, her daughters, Orion had confirmed moving constantly. 3 little girls, 3 pieces of her heart growing every day. Kale, Theron, and Orion stood with Caspian's groomsmen, looking devastatingly handsome, their eyes constantly finding Sarah, checking on her, making sure she was comfortable. The ceremony was beautiful. Celeste walked down the aisle radiant in white lace, her father on one arm, her smile brighter than the sun. Caspian waited at the altar with tears in his eyes. When Celeste reached him, he whispered something that made her laugh, made her glow. When they exchanged vows, Sarah cried happy tears, for the friendship that had survived everything, for the sister bond that had only grown stronger. At the reception, Celeste pulled Sarah aside. Thank you, she said, for being here, for standing beside me, for showing me what real love looks like. Always, Sarah promised. Celeste's hand touched Sarah's belly gently. 3 girls, my nieces. I'm going to spoil them rotten. I'm counting on it. They laughed. 2 women who'd saved each other, who'd chosen each other, who'd proven that love, all kinds of love, could survive anything. Final scene. That night after the celebration, Sarah stood on the cliff overlook with her 3 mates. The full moon hung heavy overhead. The packlands spread below, forests and meadows glowing in silver light. Kale's arms wrapped carefully around her from behind, mindful of her belly, protective. Theron pressed against her right side, his hand covering hers on her stomach. Orion completed the circle on her left, his warmth steady and sure. The mate bond hummed, silver threads connecting them all, pulsing with shared heartbeat, and now 3 new heartbeats joining the symphony. A year ago, Sarah said quietly, I was running from arranged mating, hiding, broken, convinced I'd never be worth anything. And now, Kale asked, now I'm Luna. I'm your mate. I'm carrying our children. I have a sister who forgives me, a pack who accepts me, a life I never imagined possible. The babies kicked, hard enough that all 3 mates felt it. They laughed. The sound carried across the cliff. They're strong, Kale said, like their mother. Stubborn, Theron added, definitely like their mother. Perfect, Orion finished, just like their mother. Sarah smiled, glowing, complete. In the distance, a raven landed on a nearby tree. It carried a sealed letter. Kale retrieved it, read. His expression shifted. Council of Alphas, Emergency Summit. He looked up. Other moonborn bloodlines are awakening. 3 confirmed cases in the last month. All Omega, all bonded to multiple alphas. What does that mean? Sarah asked. It means you're not alone anymore. The bloodline isn't extinct. It was dormant. Kale's voice dropped. And it means there are forces moving, ancient enemies, powers that fear what moonborn represent. Sarah's hand touched her belly, protective, fierce. Let them come, she said quietly. I'm not the scared Omega who ran from Thornwood anymore. I'm Luna. I'm moonborn. I'm carrying the next generation of this pack. Her eyes flashed silver. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not running. And if they threaten my family, she looked at her mates, saw the same determination. They'll learn what happens when you threaten a moonborn's children. The mate bond flared brilliant silver, 3 alphas and 1 omega. Soon to be 3 tiny pups. Bonded, unbreakable, ready for whatever came next. Sarah stood on the cliff and looked out at her kingdom, her pack, her family, her home. And she was finally completely, absolutely ready for the future. Come on, she said, turning toward home. We have a summit to prepare for, daughters to plan for, a life to live. They walked together, four as one, united by bonds that transcended everything. Behind them, the moon blazed approval. Ahead, the pack house glowed with warmth and welcome. And inside Sarah's womb, three tiny heartbeats drummed steady and strong. The next generation, the next chapter, the next adventure. But tonight was for peace, for love, for the quiet joy of being exactly where they belonged, together, home, forever. Post-credits, the council chamber was dark except for firelight. 12 alphas sat around an ancient table, each representing major territories, each carrying news. 5 confirmed moonborn awakenings, one said, all within 3 months. Why now? After 150 years. Silence, then the eldest alpha spoke, his voice like gravel. The old enemy stirs, the one our ancestors fought, the one we thought defeated. He unrolled a map. The shadow packs, corrupted wolves who feed on pack bonds. Our ancestors defeated them 3 centuries ago, sealed them. But seals weaken. Fear rippled through the chamber. If shadow packs return, every pack is at risk, and the moonborn, he looked up, eyes grave, will be their primary targets, because moonborn bonds create shields that could stop them. Then we protect the moonborn lunas. We do more than protect. We unite them, because individually moonborn are powerful. But together, a grim smile, together they could save us all. The council exchanged glances. Send the summons, 1 month. We prepare for war. The scene faded to black. Sarah's story, her journey from broken Omega to powerful Luna, was just beginning, and the real battle was yet to come.